What's going on, guys, and welcome to my final Friday Night SmackDown audio review of 2022 for December 30th, 2022. I am Graham Giason Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great holiday week, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, whatever it might be. My last video, probably period, in 2022 is this video right here talking about SmackDown from Friday, and we ended the year on a great note for WWE. I thought this was a great show. Didn't have a chance to watch live, caught up late last night, really enjoyed it. Not to say everything they did on the show was amazing. We'll get into it. We have a new SmackDown Women's Champion. Drew McIntyre is back. We have John Cena back in the ring on SmackDown, albeit briefly, with a rare loss to Roman Reigns. Not taking the pinfall loss, but we'll get into that as well. Overall, just a really good show, setting the stage for next week. They set up a match for 2 weeks from now on the January 13th episode, I want to say. So they have a lot going on right now on SmackDown. Still the A show in WWE. Raw's got some catching up to do. I did like Raw, not this past week because it was a best of show. Didn't watch it. The Raw before that was an awesome show. So I'm hoping they can kind of pick up where they left off this coming Monday, start off the year on the right note. But this was a very good show. Let's get right into it. Starting the show with Bray Wyatt coming out, being interrupted by LA Knight. It's finally official. Wyatt, LA Knight for the Royal Rumble in a one-on-one match. It's going to be a pitch black match. Now, kudos to WrestlingNews.co for getting this out there before anyone else a couple of weeks ago. They were the ones that first reported that this match would be what is being called a pitch black match. And the reason why it's called a pitch black match is that this event is being sponsored by Mountain Dew. It's a new flavor they have out called the pitch black flavor or whatever. What the match will entail exactly, we don't know. I hope it's not cinematic. People have waited this long for Wyatt to be back in the ring. For the audience in San Antonio for that show to not, get Wyatt in the ring, they would be very disappointed. And the reaction may not be pretty. So hopefully this is a one-on-one match. But even if it's in the arena, and I expect it to be, I don't think Triple H would do that to the audience. Is it going to be contested in the dark? What sort of shenanigans is it going to entail exactly? So we'll find out in due time. But at least the match is finally official for the Royal Rumble. I probably would have done it before then. They're doing all these big matches before the Rumble. Cena was back in the ring on the show. We had, Strowman and Gunther set up on SmackDown, not for the Rumble. Rousey and Raquel happening on SmackDown, not for the Rumble. So they're doing a lot of things on SmackDown right now, which is great because it bridges the gap between now and the pay-per-view. The Wyatt and Knight stuff has been dragged out for months now. Would have liked to have seen their first match probably happen on the first SmackDown of the year, but we're so close to the Rumble, I can't say I blame them for dragging it out a couple more weeks. But that wasn't the only thing worth noting from this segment. In addition to that being set up for the Rumble, Uncle Howdy emerged, or we were led to believe was Uncle Howdy. It could be Uncle Harper. That was the other trademark that was secured by WWE a few months ago. We've heard nothing about Uncle Harper on WWE TV, so we don't know if it's a different person, another alter ego of Uncle Howdy. We're not exactly sure. Whoever was out here in the mask, dressed as Uncle Howdy or whoever it was supposed to be, had a different mask and getup than the person who came out as Uncle Howdy on SmackDown a few weeks ago. That was lame. This was much better. Whoever was in the mask here had a full-on entrance, cool music, lights were dimmed. I was laughing watching this to an extent. The segment itself was cool, but to think that someone's job at ringside was to take a couple different people, their job was to take a flashlight and just start waving it around like a maniac was pretty funny to me. Because there was unless it was one of the headlights or spotlights or whatever they were waving around, but it looked like it was a flashlight at ringside that was being swung around by one of the ring posts, making it look like you couldn't exactly see who was in the ring. They did that on purpose so you couldn't get a better look at who was in the mask. And people have since posted pictures of, the character that was out there, and it looks pretty cool. We really still have no idea who it could be. My guess is that it could be Bo Dallas or Eric Rowan. I don't mind them being involved in this storyline. The problem with that, though, is that I really don't want to see Bo Dallas versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Bo Dallas is not on the level of Bray Wyatt on WWE TV, even if he wasn't before he left, and they want to make him that way now. Bo Dallas is just not a main eventer in WWE. I don't really want to see that. So he can be involved in the storyline. I expect him to be. Don't really want to see him be the one, revealed to be under the mask. Because I assume my guess here is that Uncle Howdy, whoever it was, laid out Wyatt in this segment. So what they're doing is bridging the gap between now and WrestleMania. LA Knight is facing Wyatt at the Rumble. And regardless of who wins or loses, Wyatt will face Uncle Howdy, quote unquote, or Uncle Harper, whoever, at WrestleMania. And I would hope they reveal who's under the mask before then, and it's not Bray Wyatt versus his other self. I just feel like that's too fucking meta. Would that really sell that many tickets? I mean, it's not really about Bray Wyatt's match alone, but Bray Wyatt, by default, is one of the most popular people in the entire company, one of the biggest baby faces in all of WWE. Despite not wrestling a single match on TV anyway, because he wrestled at the live events this week, despite not wrestling a single match on TV, still one of the biggest stars in either brand. So to put him in a match with someone who we don't even know who it is, unless they're making that person a regular member of the roster, which they're not. Uncle Howdy is not sticking around beyond the Bray Wyatt storyline. He's not challenging for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't really want to see Wyatt beat this person and then they go away and that was it. The storyline might be intriguing, but we have to have an established personality attached to whoever's under that mask. That is my thing here. It could be someone already in the roster, maybe someone from NXT, depending on who it is. They have to be very careful here, because I honestly can't think of many ideas that would be good. And people have said, oh, it's got to be Vincent and Dutch from Ring of Honor, from The Righteous. I love The Righteous. I love Dutch and Vincent. They're great. I hope WWE signed them. I don't think it's them. They were involved in a WWE tryout a couple weeks ago. WWE's been doing this Uncle Howdy stuff for months, well before they came into the company. They were still fucking in Impact at the time Bray Wyatt started this storyline. Around the same, I think the same weekend that Vincent left Impact, they started this storyline, but I can't imagine that he was under the mask the entire time. He was at a fucking tryout the other week, so if he was already pegged for SmackDown, why would he be in a tryout? Butch too. Or Butch. Dutch. Did I say Butch earlier? I meant to say Dutch. A lot of Dutches and Butches and whatever, but anyway. Yeah, I don't think it's Vincent. I'm not sure how many people would care if it was Vincent anyway. Not many people would recognize him. Again, is he a main event talent in WWE? I'm not sure. I think Vincent's awesome. I hope they do sign him. I hope he's involved in the storyline. Will he be the one unveiled under the mask? Probably not, but again, time will tell. Our first match on the show saw Sheamus versus Solo Sikoa, and before the match even got underway, Michael Cole acknowledged on commentary the passing of Don West. Now, I was super sad to see this on Friday afternoon, just yesterday, that it was announced from Mike Tenay, who tweeted that Don West has indeed passed. He's had cancer for a while. He was in remission for a little bit in late 2021, and then it came back earlier this year. Unfortunately, he lost that battle, so he seemed like an amazing person. I've only interacted with him briefly a couple of years ago at the StarCast convention over the first Double or Nothing weekend in 2019. Very cool guy, very, very nice from all accounts. And the overwhelming amount of support I saw on social media following the announcement was great to see. And to hear I almost said Uncle Howdy because I'm looking at the fucking review here in my notes from Uncle Howdy. To hear Michael Cole acknowledge it, and he didn't say he was from TNA. He just said a wrestling commentator, broadcaster, and that he made a true impact on the business is pretty fucking cool. So I'm very happy they said something about that. He never worked for WWE, so again, the fact they acknowledged that I thought was really, really cool. Again, like I said, Solo Sikoa versus Sheamus, really good match here, hard-hitting affair, the expected outside interference from the Brawling Brutes, from the Usos, Sikoa going over in the end. Remember, he beat Sheamus a couple of months ago, and that was when they put Sheamus on the shelf, and he went away for a couple weeks, was back in time for War Games. Sikoa wins again. Excuse me. Very good match here. They've gone above and beyond in protecting Solo and making him out to be a star. He's done a terrific job. They've done a terrific job in protecting Solo, making him out to be a threat, and better yet, he won at the Samoan Spike. Now, regardless of what you think about this Samoan Spike as a finishing maneuver, the fact it's an awesome tribute to Umaga is really fucking cool. So I can't complain about that. I think that's awesome that he's adopting that as his regular finisher. Cool stuff there. So it seems like, from the sounds of it, right after the match, Drew McIntyre came out, returning for the first time, I think, since War Games. He was supposed to challenge for the tag team titles alongside Sheamus a couple of weeks ago, wasn't medically cleared, came back here, laid waste to everyone at ringside, that being the Bloodline, not Sheamus and the Brutes. And it was announced next week on SmackDown, we're finally going to get that match, the Usos against McIntyre and Sheamus, the match we were supposed to get a few weeks ago before Sheamus and, before McIntyre couldn't be cleared. I think Butch filled in for Drew, and we saw Sheamus and Butch go for the gold instead in a great match. I'm glad we're finally getting that match, though, and they're not just moving on from it. So that's really cool. I mean, at this point, you would think they would just save it for the Rumble, but obviously I would assume Sheamus and Drew will be in the Rumble. No reason to think they couldn't pull double duty, but their focus will probably be fully on winning the Rumble and not going for the tag titles as well. But anyway, that should be a great match for the first SmackDown of 2023. Speaking of title matches, we had Ronda Rousey defending against Raquel Rodriguez in a very good match, actually, and to what should come as no surprise, I know Ronda hasn't exactly delivered in the ring since she came back in January. This has not been a great year for Ronda Rousey. She's had success. She won the Women's Rumble. She's been a 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion. Unfortunately, neither reign has been, off the charts good. Her first reign, she had the matches with Natalya that no one gave a shit about. She was champion for all of, I think, a month and a half, 2 months, before losing it very quickly to Liv Morgan. And the second reign, when it kicked off in October, when she won the belt back from Liv Morgan at Extreme Rules, she faced Emma on TV in a match that no one really cared about. The match with Shotzi at Survivor Series was not good, and she faced Ronda, or rather Raquel, on this show, and they had a very good match. Again, to what should come as no surprise, because their first match on SmackDown, which was a TV match, they had a rematch briefly, I think the following week, that was interrupted, so we never got a formal rematch. We got it here, and despite how lame the entire storyline has been and how little I've cared about Raquel as a contender, although I like Raquel Rodriguez, this storyline has done nothing for me. They had a good match here, to their credit. Very good finish. Ronda making her tap out with the injured arm. They told a good story. Enjoyed the match. But that was not all. And the match got some time, too, which was nice to see. That was not all. Following the match, we hear new music being played. And it was... The opening chord was Ric Flair's music, obviously. That iconic song. So you knew it was Charlotte Flair without even seeing the Titantron or fans' reactions or the commentators acknowledging it yet. It was clearly Charlotte Flair, who, like I said, came out to new music. So I prefer the old music, but listen, I appreciate that she's back doing something different. She said this herself in that Broken Skull session she did with Stone Cold Steve Austin a couple of months ago, over the summer, I think. She's been gone since May. Charlotte Flair's been off the show since May, and I haven't exactly missed her. Charlotte Flair is an awesome competitor. She's one of the best they have in WWE. She's a big star. But there wasn't exactly any storyline I was clamoring to see upon her return. So she's back now, seemingly as a babyface, just because Ronda's the top heel in that division. They needed a top babyface. Raquel's not that person right now. Shotzi was certainly not that person, unfortunately. They don't really have that person. Yeah, they had Liv, but Ronda already took care of Liv, so you needed someone else for that top spot, and now we have Charlotte Flair back for that spot, so she's not the best babyface. She very well might go back to being a heel next week, depending on what Rousey's status is. Maybe Rousey disappears for a while. I don't know. But still, she's back with new music, with new gear. So like I said, she said in that Broken Skull sessions that she wanted to come back and do something different that she hasn't done before. We know she's been a babyface before. That isn't exactly anything new. But still, it's something different, I guess. The gear is different. The music's different. I'm not a big fan of the theme, but it's something different that she hasn't had. Because she's had that other theme for like 8-9 years now, dating back to her NXT days. So it was a great theme song, and maybe she'll go back to it down the road. But the new song isn't awful, and it's a change of pace. So it still has that Ric Flair vibe to it, that Ric Flair flavor, so can't complain too much. And then Charlotte challenges her to an impromptu SmackDown Women's Championship match. Although Ronda Rousey said, "Are you back to challenge me to a match at SummerSlam?" Because she fucked up and said SummerSlam instead of the Royal Rumble. And I will say this real quickly. I mean, easy for me to say. I fuck up all the time on these videos. But Rousey is a performer on SmackDown and probably should have these promos down better at this point. And she just doesn't. She recites the lines that they had for her when she was still doing the overly scripted promos under Vince many months ago. Those were awful. She can't articulate very well. I mean, she can articulate well, but she can't what's the word? Deliver, I think is the right word I'm looking for. She can't deliver the lines all that well or make them sound organic and not as much like a robot. She's very robotic with the delivery of her lines. And then when they gave her a bit more leeway under Triple H to kind of come up with stuff, I guess, on the spot, she's kind of fucked that up too. Her lines have not been great. And if they are, I mean, it's a lose-lose. If they're feeding her stuff, it's not good material. If she's coming up with it herself, she's not doing a very good job. Ronda Rousey, regardless of what they do with her next, babyface, heel, tweener, whatever, she needs to have a mouthpiece. I don't know if it's Paul Heyman or someone else, but she needs a manager because her talking is terrible. The fact they have not given her a mouthpiece yet blows my mind. But anyway, Charlotte says, "No, I want a match now." And Rousey says, All right, sounds good. Let's do it. They do the match. It lasted all of a minute. Charlotte Flair is your new SmackDown Women's Champion. For the 14th time, she is a champion on the main roster. That does not count her very brief tag team title run a couple of years ago, and does not count her NXT Women's Championship runs. I counted myself. I'm thinking, okay, that sounds honestly low for as crazy as that sounds. It's honestly, by this point, you would think she would have held more championships, but no, they don't count the NXT titles retroactively. I think at the time they did, they don't anymore, whatever. Because if you do, she's up to 16. But because they don't, it's 14, whatever. But anyway, Charlotte Flair's the new champion. To keep this short and sweet, I'm honestly indifferent towards the whole thing. Her being back as a babyface, okay. It's something different. Rousey's reign bored me to fucking tears. She was not doing a great job. Her opponents weren't interesting. They tried. It didn't work. I like the pairing of her and Shayna. Cool, but the reign itself was not great. Charlotte becoming champion isn't a positive to me, but it also isn't a negative. It's more of the same with Charlotte being champion, because remember, at this time a year ago, Charlotte had a similar reign, longer than Ronda's reign, but she was champion for 7 months and also wasn't very interesting. She had that awful feud with Toni Storm. They had a good match on SmackDown before Toni quit, but their feud sucked. Charlotte was not barely on the show, but she never really defended the championship. She had a one-off great match on SmackDown for the title with Naomi, but that was about it. That was like the one highlight in her 7-month reign. And the Becky match at Survivor Series in November of last year, but that wasn't for the championship. The match with Ronda at WrestleMania was underwhelming. The match where she lost the belt to Backlash, WrestleMania Backlash, was quite good, but that was about it. So Charlotte being champion doesn't give me a lot of optimism either. To me, it just kind of feels like a sidestep. It's not a step up. It's not a step down. It's kind of no change to me. No real difference does Charlotte being champion make, at least in my opinion. So we'll see where they go with it. I have no fucking clue where you go from here. I don't know if you do Charlotte and Raquel, Charlotte and Shayna. Do you keep Charlotte as a babyface? Do we still get Ronda and Becky at WrestleMania? Not that anyone really cares at this point, I don't think, but per the reports from WrestlingNews.co, that doesn't sound like that's the case. It might be Charlotte and was it Bianca? I think it was Rousey and Rhea was the other match. I don't know. At this point, it makes no sense. We have no idea. We'll see where they go with it. Imperium was out next to talk about Gunther's great year as the Intercontinental Champion, showing all the people he's beaten, from Ricochet twice, to Rey Mysterio, to Shinsuke Nakamura, Sheamus twice he beat as well to retain the championship, before being interrupted, of course, by Braun Strowman. He wants a championship match. He said no man can beat him, but what about a monster? The delivery of the line was not great, but I could see what they were going for, whatever. Imperium attacks Braun after Braun almost got the better of them. Imperium ended up getting the better of Braun. Ricochet comes out to make the save. They announced right after this it's going to be Braun and Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship in 2 weeks on SmackDown, so not at the Rumble, they're doing it before then. And then the main event, Kevin Owens and John Cena against the Bloodline, Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. Pretty basic match here. It didn't get a ton of time. It was your average house show main event, honestly. Wasn't anything overly exciting from the fact that John Cena was there. Looking a bit older, but the guy's 45 now, because, I mean, that's really what you can expect at this point from John Cena. But in the ring itself, I'm talking like visually or like physically or whatever. In the ring, he looked perfectly fine. He was in there for mere minutes, but he looked fine. And they ended up beating Roman and Sami, with Owens pinning Sami Zayn. So we got the interaction between Owens and Sami, further planting the seeds for Owens and Zayn against the Usos at WrestleMania. Roman clearly not happy with Sami's loss. Cena emerged victorious for the first time in years. Cena has not won a televised match, I don't think, since early 2019. Because he lost to Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania in 2020, and he lost to Roman Reigns last year at SummerSlam. So he's not won a match on TV in quite a few years. So it was long overdue. And it was a fun match. The crowd was into it. Nothing really out of the ordinary. But again, as a SmackDown TV main event, it was quite good. And in a nutshell, that was SmackDown. Again, like I said, I thought it was a great show. They also set up, in addition to the Usos and Sheamus and Drew for next week for the tag titles, they also set up Top Dollar versus Ricochet in a Royal Rumble qualifying match after Ricochet and Madcap Moss and The New Day, among others, were making fun of Top Dollar for his botch on SmackDown 2 weeks ago, which was quite great. Because, I mean, at least they're incorporating that into a storyline. If they're turning Hit Row heel, I don't know if it's going to salvage the act, but it's a step in the right direction. And we'll see where they go with that. So we have that set up for next week. Usos against Drew and Sheamus for the tag titles, and in 2 weeks, Braun and Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. SmackDown's killing it right now, easily the best show WWE has to offer, and it's not even close. So thank you guys for checking on my audio review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And yeah, we'll be back in the new year with all new videos and a new SmackDown Lowdown, I think tomorrow. There's a new SmackDown Lowdown today. And plenty more in the new year. So have an awesome one, guys. Thank you so much for a great year here on the channel and all over the place. All this stuff that I do, your support is greatly appreciated. Have an awesome one. I'm Graham G. Matthews. Have a very happy new year, and I'll catch your ass down the road.